Hey guys, welcome back to Beyond Dafeet. On this episode we're going to take an in-depth look at the updates and just what the Brook's Beast 20 has changed and who this shoe is for. So firstly, touching on who this shoe is for. So these only get made in a 2E as well as a 4E in Australia. So if you do have that broader foot and quite a flexible foot both ways, this will work great for you. It is kind of on that heavier side of stability shoes, but for good reason. There is just a lot of stability features that go into this shoe, and it is just built up quite a bit more than most of the other stability shoes on the market. This has dropped a lot of weight compared to the 18, and just a lot of different changes to the stability system in this as well. But I think they have made the right move as far as a running shoe goes, but I think they will lose a lot of their current customers with this shoe, just because it isn't as stable as the 18 was. So if you do have that broad foot, broad ankle, broad midfoot, as well as broad forefoot, this shoe ticks all those boxes. It's got a straight last, so there's not kind of much of a curve to it. And if you do have that kind of straight foot, this will work nicely. But it is made for that broader fitting foot, higher instep, and quite a bit flexible as well. So if you do have that medium to low arch, pick yourself up a pair of Beasts, and they are a good high stability, just made for that bigger bloke that wants a bit more shoe underneath the foot. So looking at the outsole, the whole black part of this outsole is carbon rubber, so high abrasive the whole way through. It is just made for that high impact runner, and it's just not going to wear down as much compared to air-blown rubber, since someone wearing this is probably going to have a bit more weight on their side. It's just made for that longer lasting shoe, so you'd probably look at about that 800 Ks out of just the outsole itself. With this grey part on the inside, it's slightly a bit softer. It's not as durable as the black part, but it's just going to absorb quite nicely if you do tend to pronate quite severely and end up landing on that medial side. But yeah, high abrasive outsole. Not a whole lot has changed when it comes to the flex screws at the forefoot, so underneath that medial side on the forefoot there's not much of a flex groove, just to keep the forefoot quite a bit stable as well, so you're not coming in too much on the late part of your gait cycle. Reasonable amount of flex grooves there still, since it is quite a stable shoe still. You do need a reasonable bit of a toe off. So moving on to the midsole, so what they do use here is the Biomogo as well as the DNA mixed in, and they have changed quite a bit of this stability system compared to the 18, but we'll get onto that a bit later. So with the guide rails, slightly bit more built up on that lateral side of the heel, so if you do tend to come down on that lateral side of the heel, which you probably will on this shoe since it is running with the 12mm drop, just does add that nice stability system at the rear of the foot, so you're not going too far over. And with the guide rail on that medial side, it is a bit more extended, so it's not going to be as firm or as hard as that dual density. It just does guide you throughout the gait cycle nicely. Probably not as stable as the 18 was. They're going to lose quite a few customers from the 18, but this is more of that high stability, nice and broad last. So they're going to get a few more runners running in this, but they're going to lose a lot of their current customers when it comes to the Beast. But a lot better stability system, not going to have that dual density digging up on the inside and that medial side. It's just going to guide you throughout the gait cycle quite nicely. With the guide rails running on that straight last, it will make for that nice transition the whole way through the gait cycle if you do have a slightly broader foot the whole way through. And with the Biomogo DNA cushioning system that this does use in the midsole, it's not going to be as plush as the DNA loft that the Brook shoes. This is just made for that slightly firmer responsive shoe. Since it is made for that person that is slightly bigger runner with having that kind of size foot, it'll just needs to be that slightly bit firmer of a cushioning system, just so it doesn't kind of compress as much over time. With the midsole as well, so the actual sock liner itself in the Brook's Beast, it is a polyurethane, so it is nice and plush. It just has that nice initial feel to it over the life of the shoe, and is definitely one of the best stock standard sock liners that does come with shoes, similar to what they use in the Dyad. So we'll move on to the upper. Quite a bit has changed, so they've taken around that kind of threading that was around the toes and just made some engineered mesh, and now has that internal toe cap. They do have a functional logo, so with this Brooks logo over that midfoot area, it is a 3D print, so it just gives a nice hug over that midfoot area. They do run with an attached tongue, so if you do have a slightly higher instep, it can be a bit more accommodating to that, and they just have incorporated a lace loop there as well. So with the Brooks, to stop it sliding to that lateral side, you do have a lace loop halfway down the tongue, and there is one to the top eyelet as well, so you're just not going to get that tongue slipping down to that one side. But yeah, very nice engineered mesh upper. A lot of padding around that heel. If you do want that nice plush feel, decent concave in there, so it's going to lock you in quite well. It does have a lock lace loop there as well, and just runs with that V heel shape. So if you did experience a bit too much slippage on that 18, This does run with quite a nice V-shaped heel, a lot of cushioning around there, and just does lock you in quite nicely. So I'll have a look at the differences and the updates that the 18 has moved on to the 20. Starting off with the outsole, not a whole lot has changed here, just kind of connected a few outsole parts, but yeah, the whole outlay of the outsole, not a whole lot has changed. Just on that medial side, they have connected up the outsole there. The flex grooves in the forefoot are quite similar, and just a different outlay of the actual kind of grip itself, but all in all, not a whole lot has changed from the outsole. So your massive difference in the 18s and 20s is your midsole and your upper. So this just had a lot going on. So your blue part of this cushioning system is a softer cushioning system compared to your white, so it is a softer durometer on that navy part, and it just offers that slightly bit more plush cushioning system. With your 20s, they just use that full co-molded Biomogo DNA, so there's not kind of any different densities in that cushioning system in your 20. And with your stability system, so these have gone from the guiderails, a lot of brands are doing that now. Brooks kind of started it in their Adrenaline 19, and they have moved it on to the Beast 20, so it is quite a bit more built up on this compared to the Adrenaline as well as the Transcend, and just does use a straight last. So they did eliminate the dual density plus that thermoplastic stability system on that midfoot, so it just makes for not as stable shoe, but it is more of that running shoe. If you do like the Beast 18 and want a similar stability system, I would probably look at the Addiction 14, since it is still quite a similar shoe, whereas this has moved on to a different stability system. So with the heel, has moved from an external heel counter to an internal, and with the upper, just made it a bit sleeker. Coming into 2020, they've just got rid of a lot of the excess stuff. So as I said, they removed the toe cap, made it internal. Not as much 3D print going over the midfoot. They just have kind of made a functional logo and a bit more engineered mesh, and just with the heel has remained quite similar, apart from just that heel counter. Fits quite similar. I would say this fits a lot better, slightly a bit broader throughout that midfoot area. I think they've definitely gone in the right direction as far as a running shoe goes. The Brooks 18 I really wouldn't classify as a running shoe. It's kind of a glorified high stability walking shoe, since it is quite a bit heavier. So I think this is coming at around 370 grams or 380 grams, whereas they have dropped this to about 330. So they've eliminated quite a lot of the weight. With doing that, there's a lot less adhesive in the actual midsole itself, and a lot less going on over the whole shoe. With eliminating quite a lot of the weight, they have taken out quite a lot of stability as well, so not as stable as a shoe as far as the actual stability system goes. I think it's a better way to go as far as a running shoe goes for those kind of bigger runners and just want a bit more stability and a slightly broader shoe on their foot. These are basically that high cushioned daily trainer. These aren't your race shoes. They're not going to set you a PB. They may do if you're losing a bit of kegs and want something to lose some kegs in. Good shoe, definitely a better way for a running shoe to go. If you want us to compare this to any other high stability shoes, something like your Omni, even the Addiction itself, or the 860 by New Balance, goes up quite well against them now. Is definitely more of that running shoe now. But yeah, if you got any questions about the shoe, anything I didn't touch on the video, leave one in the comments. Hit the like button, subscribe, all that jargon, and we'll see you in another video. Bye. Which one do you want? No, fuck you, big ones. Joking? Don't want to be up anymore. Fucking I can't fight. Had to do like the midsole 3 times. Shit. Oh, the old one.